CNN poll released last night finds former President Donald Trump leads President Biden 49% to 45% in a head-to-head matchup. We are still, of course, a year away. Let's break all of this down with CNN's John King at the Magic Wall. John, walk us through how we can square these bad polls for Biden with this really impressively strong night for Democrats.
It's a giant debate in the Democratic Party. Did the candidates, did Andy Beshear, did the Abortion Rights Initiative, did the delegates, House of Delegates and Senate candidates of Virginia, did those Democrats win despite Biden? Is Biden weak and vulnerable and those Democrats are winning, those issues are winning because the voters are with them but not with the president? Or, as the White House argues, when the president's on the ballot next year, like Andy Beshear was yesterday, like the constitutional amendment was yesterday, and you're drawing a contrast, he'll be just fine. That's what the White House says. If you look at our polling and the New York Times Siena College polling that came out, the president is in danger of losing all these states he flipped, right? He flipped these 5. Hillary Clinton won Nevada. If you look closely at the polling and deep into it, the vulnerabilities with his own coalition, disappointment about the economy, questions about whether he's too old, does he have the vitality to be president? The polling tells you that we have the possibility to have this again, right? To go back to something like 2016, where Donald Trump wins the Electoral College, whether or not he wins the popular vote. So how do you square that? That's what the national polls show. That's what the New York Times Siena College state polls show. You're right. Well, that's a great question. How do you square that with what we saw last night? You saw a Democratic governor in a very red state. Look at all this blue, significantly in the suburbs, around Louisville, around Frankfort, around Lexington, the Cincinnati suburbs in northern Kentucky. Andy Beshear ran it up. He outperformed Donald Trump in the state of Kentucky, not in the percentage-wise, but I mean in these suburban areas, right? So how does this happen? That's the big question.
67,000.
Right. So the White House says when Joe Biden's on the ballot, he can draw the contrast with Donald Trump or whoever it is, just like he drew the contrast with Daniel Cameron. That's what we'll see, a big debate in the Democratic Party about this.
And you've been traveling around the country. You've been speaking to voters. Our new CNN polling shows Biden is losing support among some key blocs, like black voters. What do you hear when you're out on the campaign trail?
So we went here. If you look at this state, you see all that red? You see all that red? Joe Biden won by 20,000 votes in Wisconsin. Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton by 20,000 votes. Down here, the Democrats need to turn out black voters here in Milwaukee County. In the city, this is Biden's problem, the enthusiasm problem. It's not all about him, but listen to Joanna Brooks. She owns a yoga studio just over the line in Glendale, a suburb of Milwaukee. She's voted Democrat all her life. She says, maybe I should rethink that.
Black people in general, I think, tend to be pretty loyal to the Democratic Party. And sometimes I wonder, just based on how that party has performed thus far for people of color, if we should continue to be.
That's not all just about Biden, but that's sort of, disappointment that goes back years for her. Listen to Angela Lang. Angela Lang runs a community activist group, black leaders organizing communities. She says on the issues that Joe Biden made promises and he hasn't delivered.
People are wondering, what is he doing in terms of police accountability and criminal justice reform? I get really concerned that Democrats don't have a solid enough message to push back on some of these tough on crime messages and end up kind of stepping into the pitfalls and saying things that really aren't helpful.
And so it gets us back to the conversation we were just having. Joanna Brooks thinks maybe black voters should think about moving away from the Democratic, but she says not next year because of Donald Trump's attacks on voting rights and on abortion rights, right? So she says she's with the Democrats next year. It's a longer conversation. So that actually backs up the White House point that when Biden's on the ballot, he'll be okay. Angela Lang says she's worried about being able to turn black voters out, that Biden better get out there. And he better explain to people why he didn't pass criminal justice reform. She says, to the age question, he needs to be more visible on the streets.
All right, John King, thanks so much. So what did Republican presidential hopefuls take away from last night's elections? Has it changed their strategies going into tonight's third Republican debate? CNN's Jeff Zeleny is at that debate site in Miami. And Jeff, what are you hearing from the Republican candidates as they prepare to take the stage?
Well, Jake, we are hearing a lot about what happened last night. This debate is unlike the other two we've seen. One, it has only 5 candidates will be on stage, so each of them will have more time to make their arguments, and they'll have more time to go after the former president as well. I am told by all of the campaigns they're going to try and do both. Yes, try and distinguish themselves from one another, but also point out some key differences with the former president, largely the Trump era. The results of last night's election largely show in most of these candidates' views that the Trump era has been bad for the Republican Party. We've seen it in midterm elections. Of course, we saw it in 2020 as well. Look on abortion, for example. That is one key dividing issue. Tonight, for example, Nikki Haley, the former South Carolina governor, she for months has been calling for a consensus on this issue. a big difference between what she has been doing and what Florida Governor Ron DeSantis did right here in Florida. He signed a 6-week abortion ban into law. So look for that to be dissected tonight under the lens and the backdrop of what happened last night in those key races. Also, foreign policy. This is the first debate that has been taken place in the context of the Middle East war. Many differences on that front as well. Jake, the bottom line is time is running out for these candidates to make their move, make their mark. Many of them are hoping to do it here tonight. Jake.
All right, Jeff Zeleny in Miami. Thank you so much.